Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Experience Kills. I'm your host Ben, and with me today my amazing co-host, my partner in crime, the man I couldn't live without. It's Richard.
I think that last one's a bit weird, isn't it?
Well, yeah, probably. I mean, we have been together a long time now, and I took a trip down memory lane earlier this week, and it reminded me of the good old days of BXB games and Brit Xbox, and frankly, well, I couldn't do this without you, Rich.
Yeah, those good old days.
We are here today to talk about something else which you could argue was from the good old days, and that is the remastered version of Saints Row the Third, being brought to us by the lovely guys at Deep Silver and Volition and that sort of stuff. And I think it's probably some port work has been done on this, but it's been fully remastered for the current generation of hardware because it came out like 9 years ago. Which is kind of crazy to think that that's how long ago this game was. And I just want to say right at the beginning here, I was always a Saints Row guy over GTA. I know, controversial, most people are going to think that's proper insane, but no, I always preferred this franchise to the point where I've completely rinsed Saints Row back on the 360 and its sequel, and you know, I've gone back and played the sequel and beaten it again. I really like these open world games. Richard, what's your kind of connection and history to Saints Row?
I'm less committed to it than you by a long way. So I think I played the first one briefly and kind of didn't like how silly it was. I suppose I was enthralled to GTA a bit more and liked GTA 4. I don't know, it kind of moved on, didn't it? So the first couple of games in the series just felt like GTA clones, and the third had more of its own identity, or more confidence in its identity, should we say.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair, and I don't think we're going to try and review Saints Row the Third right now because it's a 9-year-old game and we're predominantly looking at what's been done here for the remaster. But yeah, I think it's important to talk about the evolution of the franchise a little bit. Yeah, like you said, 1 and 2 were definitely like comedic focused clones of GTA, and then third, it's really set itself apart with an entirely kind of different tone, takes it in a very interesting direction that sets itself up as its own franchise, its own thing, and then that was obviously doubled down on really hard with the fourth game in the franchise. But for my money, I would pick the third as my favourite one in the franchise because it balances that kind of grounded street level crime simulator with this over-the-top Saturday morning cartoon done through the view of incredibly adult language and really violent stuff and sexual kind of content, and I think 9 years later, some of the stuff hasn't aged that well, but I think it commits strongly enough to this knowing understanding of what it's doing that it does fall into the kind of satirical take on this type of game, and I think it gets away with a lot because of that, but it definitely sets out what it is right from the first moment when you're looking at the main menu, and it has a horde mode on the main menu, which is spelt like a, you know, the whore you would find in as a prostitute, which is sort of like, that's okay, a little bit uncomfortable, perhaps a little dated, now 9 years later, but I think it's, like I said, self-aware enough, leans into that so heavily that you know it's not taking itself seriously.
Do you think it was dated at the time? Because 9 years is not that long.
But a lot has changed. We've had a lot of, you know, big shifts in the kind of awareness of sexual content, in the awareness and presentation of female characters in gaming in the last 9 years. And I think you wouldn't get something like that now in a video game.
Maybe not. I think it was always highly crass, and that was kind of the appeal, wasn't it?
Yeah, but you've got to remember, this is the same console generation where we got BMX XXX.
Yeah.
You know, or was that the previous generation?
No,
that might have been the original.
The previous one.
That was the previous generation. We were going back into the dark ages there, but we were still in the era of E3 with booth babes 9 years ago, for example. So I think a lot has developed for the better and changed, but I think this was always a crass series of games that wore its sort of satirical influences on its sleeve, you know, unashamedly, and I think that's what I always enjoyed about it, that it was quite actually smartly written, that the characters are very knowing and self-aware. There's a very heavy kind of like Deadpool-esque fourth wall breaking vibe to a lot of the writing. Like, these guys know they're in a video game or a cartoon or this over the top situation that isn't based on reality, and that's what's always made it fun for me. And I think, you know, that's still very present in this remastered version. The writing actually and the voice acting is, I think, really above what you'd expect for what would be considered a GTA clone.
Yeah, I think it's difficult for me to really judge it because you've played a lot more of it than me. But I don't know, just playing it as a complete neophyte to the series, because what I have played has been a very long time ago, and when I did play this game, it was on the OnLive service, for anyone that remembers that. So really just tried it out just to see how OnLive works rather than to play the game itself.
Kind of like if you think Stadia's bad, imagine that, but make it 10 times worse.
Ago.
Yeah.
So that really didn't go so well. But I suppose compared to what I remember, this stands up strangely well. Like, in terms of visuals, they've clearly done a lot of work.
Oh, yeah.
The opening missions especially, because it starts off with a series of missions that are more focused and on rails than the core game, which is much more open world and sandboxy. But those first few missions, because they're so well directed and the action is guided, they really go to town on how that looks, and just the lighting, the character models, all of it feels contemporary. It doesn't feel like an old game.
No, I think they've done an incredible job especially with the visual overhaul here on this remastered. It is not just a quick and dirty port onto the current hardware. You know, a bump in resolution to 1080 /4K or whatever. We've both been playing it, I think, on our Xbox One X's. You know, so there's full HDR support. There's all kinds of enhancements all across the field of visual. So from the character models to the city environments to really noticeably, actually, is the lighting and how good things look. And, you know, you can really tell when it's dawn or dusk or nighttime, and it all comes across really nicely. Also, I'm playing it when it's like raining and everything is kind of dulled and more subdued, and then there's lots of neon in the game, and all that pops really brightly and really connects with you, because the game always had a strong, colourful visual palette. Is how they kind of represent the different enemy factions in this game, and with these improvements, it just doubles down on all of that. It's really quite intense in its visual presentation. Obviously, like the kind of people walking around the streets, their models are fairly basic, and I think what this visual improvement has done is it's kind of really gone down hard on the cartoony aspect of the game. More than ever, this looks like you are playing a twisted Saturday morning cartoon. And I think that's fun in itself and works perfectly tonally for the franchise, which I really enjoyed. I've got a long list here of actually all the improvements, and it's longer than I can be bothered to sort of repeat here in a brief review for you guys. But they've touched on everything. And I think if you are playing it on the highest end, the Pro and the X version, you know that the 4K support and the HDR really makes the game, like you said, feel very modern. Surprisingly modern, actually. When you think about a game from 9 years ago, I think if you go back and you played a lot of those, say, Assassin's Creed games that have been remastered from that era, they don't hold up as well. It's like the work on those has not been as thorough as you can see on this remastered version. And, you know, I couldn't say necessarily to you, because I believe Saints Row 3 is available back compatible on the Xbox One. I'm not sure if you already own that. I can 100% say you need to go out and buy this remastered version, but if you are a fan, this is an easy purchase to make, I think, and it's a much bigger leap here than what you saw with Saints Row 4 and its Xbox One version. I mean, those are very quite, you know, similar, because the fourth version of the game of the series came out right at the end of the 360 life cycle, and then the Xbox One version was right at the beginning. So the jump here is definitely more pronounced, and it's taken advantage of a lot more of the hardware capabilities that we've got at the later end of this generation to really boost it into this generation.
That's a good point about the back compat version, because there's a lot of people that got that for free. I checked and I've got it. I think it must have been given away with games for gold at some point.
Quite possibly, yes.
Yeah, it's a funny one, that I wonder if they regret giving that away now, having to sell the remaster. It makes it a bit of a tougher sell, but I suppose not everyone would have picked up on that. And it is a significant rework, as you say. There's a lot of work that's gone into this to make it feel like a contemporary release, and you said it was your favourite one. Presumably that's why they've picked this one to remaster, and they've done a pretty good job of it.
Yeah, and I think its timing is important as well. So it's coming out here in the middle of the summer, while we're all in lockdown, and that might date this review, but I do think that's important to consider because, we're sat here with not a lot of games to play, especially of an open world nature, that are multi-platform and that are coming out, that are part of a beloved franchise, that are fun, easily accessible, silly, nice distractions from the world we're living in right now, and you can really throw yourself into this and just, go play the stupid mini games, drive around in the Saints Row tank and blow everything up, take your VTOL jet and strafe through the city if you wish. There's so much dumb, over-the-top, crazy bullshit that you can do in Saints Row, and just get distracted and have a great time with it. I think that right now is something we could all do with, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I've not got a shortage of games, to be honest, but yeah, I know what you mean.
We don't all have hundreds of games deep backlogs, do we? Yeah. But me and Richard might, but not everyone will. But I think this is, most importantly, a very well handled remaster. And I think it's got all the DLC. It's got loads of kind of crazy weapons unlocked right from the beginning because of the DLC, and that kind of breaks the game. But at the same time, who cares? Because this game is already insane. So you might as well have your mind control squid rocket launcher right from the very beginning, so you can just shoot at people and they'll fight for you. Why not? Who cares? It's dumb. You might as well have a Saints Row tank that you can drive around and basically be indestructible and take on everyone in, because who cares? This is just a silly game. This is fun to play, and the missions are well designed. The missions are well designed. I've played quite a few of them here on the remastered version, and the characters are surprisingly good. There's some really strangely nice moments between characters where they sing along in the car together and stuff, and they're actually strangely well written. And let's not forget, I think one of the most fun things of the Saints Row games is the level of customization you can put into your own character. You can create truly horrific monsters if you so wish. It's hilarious what you can do. As you'll be seeing in the videos, my lady has this crazy mohawk. She's got a white Harlequin face paint on, and she also, which you won't hear, has a Russian accent, because why not? And she's just killing everyone because that's what she does.
That was one of the things I was impressed with, and in the character creation mode, you kind of take it for granted now that in Saints Row you can make crazy characters, but I didn't clock first time around that all the voice acting is different as well, depending on how you set your character up. So there's quite a lot of different choices, considering that all of that dialogue is re-recorded for every mission in whichever voice that you choose. Which I thought, good job for them, to really lean hard into that and commit to it. They've done a really good, proper job of indulging your choices and making it fleshed out for the full game.
I also think it's worth mentioning in that regard that while we talked about some of the crass tone, it's really cool that you can switch your gender at any time in this game, and that you can be whatever type of gendered character you want anywhere on the spectrum at any point. There's no restrictions to hairstyles or body shapes or anything. You can just switch it and make it represent whoever you want. And 9 years ago, that's pretty groundbreaking.
Yeah, but that struck me as well. In the when I finally got into my apartment in this game, and you can change your outfit, and in there's a bra for my guy, and it doesn't make a deal of it. It's just do you want to put a bra on? All right. It's just whatever. And it doesn't bat an eyelid at that. For all its crassness, it's also almost hyper aware of what the current political scene is in terms of gender fluidity and all of that. It's just anything goes, isn't it?
I think we'll end it on that. Yeah, Saints Row the Third Remastered, anything goes. I think that is a fair description of this game, and I think it's a really good remaster of the third game in the franchise, and you should check it out, especially if you're a fan. They do a good job here, so that's been another episode of Experience Kills, and I hope you've enjoyed listening to me, the host Ben, here with my amazing co-host Richard. You can find me at DIYE on Twitter, and you can find Richard at Colonel Red. You can find us at Experience Kills. Please give us a like and subscribe on the YouTube channel, and don't forget, if you don't have time to watch these videos, there are dedicated audio versions of all of these reviews available from pretty much anywhere you can get a good podcast. So until next time, I'm going to say, get out there, kick some ass, and we'll be back soon.
Bye.